Hello. All right, am I on? Okay, I'm on. Okay. Hello. This is Disney 67 here, and as you can tell, I am going to do a rant on a film that came out like a month ago, Disenchanted. Okay, so this movie, this time I'm going to go in deep debt over what I liked about the film, what I didn't like about the movie. There will be a lot of waffling from me. I apologize, but without further ado, let's dig in. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know what Disenchanted is, it's basically a sequel to the 2007 film Enchanted, which starred Amy Adams, Patrick Dempsey, James Marsden, Idina Menzel, Susan Sarandon was in it, Timothy Spall, and it told the story about this girl called Giselle, voiced by Amy Adams, who dreams a true lost case. And on the eve of her wedding day to Prince Edward, she, of course, falls down a manhole and she becomes a real life person in Times Square, New York, and she falls in love with a divorce lawyer, played by Patrick Dempsey, and you can pretty much see what happens after that. So I did do one of, by the way, of Enchanted. So if you want to watch that deep debt of Enchanted, then go onto my channel and you'll find it there somewhere. Anyway, back to Disenchanted. So this movie, of course, like the first one, begins in the animated world, and this time the narrator is Pip, who is now voiced by Griffin Newman, who I have never heard of in my entire life. And the very minute it starts, by the way, you actually see references to different movies. Like in the beginning of the movie, I saw like Aurora's parents, and when I saw them, I was like, "Oh my god, that's Aurora's parents!" And then there was one with Rapunzel's tower, and you see Belle's house. I think you see Cinderella from the 1950 version at the fountain with sheep. Some people think it's Icklebo sheep from Toy Story. I think it's Cinderella from the 1950 Cinderella, if not mistaken. But anyway, and of course, Pip, of course, tells the audience about Giselle, and she is fed up of New York City because she now has a child with Robert called Sophia. And they decide to move to Monroeville because she spots this billboard on, like, near like Robert's apartment, where she lived there for the last, 10 years. So, yeah, note to self, okay? So, a lot of people are confused by the time frame in this movie. Some people are like, how come it's 15 years? It shouldn't be 15 years. Well, in actual fact, the movie is actually taking place in 10 years. So you could say it's like set in 2017 instead of 2022, which is where the film was filmed back in 2021. But anyway, moving on. So just to clarify that with you all. So yeah, Morgan, of course, who's now played by Gabriella Baldacchino, doesn't want to move to Monroeville because she has friends apparently now. Because in the original one, she had no friends, according to her dad, Robert. So of course, more like Giselle's telling her, "Oh, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay." And of course, she's like, "Yeah, whatever." And she's always on her phone, like, the teenagers like this. They're like this, going, "Oh my god, I'm on my phone." And her father's like, "Oh, come on, just help us pack, please." And she's like, "I don't want to move." So of course, they travel abroad, and they end up going to Monroeville, which is actually set in Enniscorry in Ireland. So yeah, you might as well say that 99% of the movie is set in Ireland. If not, and 5% is like set in England, in Buckinghamshire in the UK, because it was filmed in April 2022 again due to test audiences over something that they didn't like. I would have loved to see what the test audience version was, but will we ever get to see it? Hardly not. Been back to the movie. So of course, the first thing, like Giselle, of course, with Robert, they arrive to their new home, which is like a pink hat home. It kind of reminds me of Jenna Rink's house from 13 Gone 30 with flowers in it. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so like Jenna Rink's house in 30 Gone 30, along with like except there was like tower added in the mix. Sorry for I know I'm ranting and waffling. I'm really sorry. That's me in a nutshell. But anyway, so of course Giselle's all excited. Like, she shows Morgan her new room, but of course there is a fault to the electricity, and she blows up. She blows up Morgan's room, and Morgan has to end up staying in her parents' room. And of course we see the the queen bee herself, Malvina Monroe, who was played by Maya Rudolph, who was in Bridesmaids, she was in Big Hero 6. And she's kind of like trying to like make Giselle's life a living hell, you might as well say, because she doesn't want Giselle to be part of the clique with her other friends played by Jamie Mays. You know, she had like the red hair, she was in the Smurfs 1 and 2, she was in Glee. And the other one, Yvette Nicole Brown, who was in Drake and Josh, and she was also in that thing. Oh Jesus, what you call that thing? I keep mistaking her for the woman that goes, I said, I said, but it's not her. What thing was she? Oh yes, Lady and the Tramp, the remake that came out on Disney Plus there 3 years ago. She's in that as well as the villain, you might as well say. But anyway, so of course Giselle is kind of like tries her best with Morgan, and of course one day like there's this thing that happens in her school, in her school Morgan, and of course Giselle decides to do a little what you call it, stand for Morgan, to promote Morgan, being like trying to make her be popular again. But of course she's like, oh, I can do it by myself. I'm not a kid anymore, I can do it by myself. And Giselle's like, oh Morgan, I'm Morgan. So of course, that evening, Robert and Giselle are like waiting for Morgan, who apparently disappeared. How did she go to New York from Inniscarry to New York within a feckin' day? I do not know. It's fantasy. Just play along with it. So yeah, Morgan decides to come home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning. And her father's like, oh, where have you been? And she's like, oh, I got the subway to New York. And she says like, oh, but you should be happy here. She goes, I'm not happy here. And she goes, oh, I know what you want. She said, you and your old precious fairy world, but I don't. And then, of course, herself and her father have this big argument over not staying in Monroeville. And he says, you do not talk to your mother like that. She's like, my mother? And he's like, mm-hmm. She's like, she's not my mother. And then she looks and she goes, she's my stepmother. That's all she'll ever be. And I was like, you total complete bitch. Yeah. By the way, Morgan in this movie for like throughout the entire film, well, most of it, is a complete whiny bitch. I'm sorry, but she is. I mean, in the original movie, she was all about Giselle because she, like in the original movie, like she saw Giselle on the billboard. She goes, "Oh, Daddy, there's a princess in the billboard." It's like, no, it's just a mannequin for an advertisement. And herself and Giselle like clicked like that. They were like this. They're like a mother and daughter throughout the entire time. And she welcomed Giselle, like Giselle welcomed her in open arms and everything. But ever since Morgan became a teenager, she became a total bitch to Giselle. I mean, seriously, if I was a teenager, right, and my mum remarried this guy, and I said to my mum's husband, if she was married by the way, and I said, oh, he's not my father, he's my stepfather. She'd say, all right, missy, you're grounded for a full month. And she'd take the phone off me and I go, oh, yeah, it's not so unfair. So yeah, then Giselle's like really upset by this. And she, oh yeah, I forgot to mention before going any further. So, of course, things that kind of like happen in the house. And of course, Edward and Nancy, who were like Edward was, you know, Giselle's former fiance, and Nancy was Robert's former girlfriend before they got married in the end of the first movie. So they, of course, decide to pay a visit because now they are Giselle's daughter's godparents, which I think is totally awkward, but anyway, so they give Giselle this wand, apparently, it's an Andalusian wand. And they, of course, Giselle's like, oh, don't you hear that, Sophia? You're going to be the true daughter of Andalusia. And that's what really pissed off Morgan, by the way, when she said that, because Morgan was the one that had, you know, Morgan was the one that spent more time with Giselle, where Sophia, I believe, is like, well, a couple of months old. But anyway, moving on. So, yeah, so her husband is off. He's commuting now, by the way. He travels in and out to work by using the train, which is, by the way, set in Dundalk train station in County Louth. So yeah. Anyway, back to where I said there about Giselle and Morgan having a falling out. So yeah. So Giselle, of course, sings a song about having a perfect fairy tale life and wanting that again. So she ends up like summoning Pip, the chipmunk, you know, the chipmunk in the first movie. And of course, she of course takes a wand, goes outside, and she's like, "Oh, I wish for a fairy tale life." And the next morning, she wakes up and she realizes that the whole place of Monroeville is now transformed into a full blown fairy tale where it's all singing, dancing, everyone's in a good mood. There's no one in a bad mood at all. But of course, there is a price, by the way, because what Giselle doesn't know is that every time, okay, so yeah, let's talk about time. Okay, I am sorry I'm ranting, but anyway, so yeah, so basically, after that, like after her wish came true, she realizes that every time the clock would strike, her eyes would turn yellow. She's like, hmm, you know what? You can go over there. And she does this, she goes like this, as if to say, what's going on with me? Because she doesn't realize that she's now an evil stepmother. So that's the price she got for making the wish, because, yeah, like she's Morgan's stepmother now. So every time the clock would strike, like I'm talking 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, etc. Every time the clock chimes, she turns evil. And then of course, the more chimes that she gets, she becomes more and more and more powerful. So it's kind of like 102 Dalmatians with Cruella, who I know Cruella was a villain like in the first movie, and she was a villain in the second movie as well. But remember the movie 102 Dalmatians with it's what's called Cruella, like I said, and there was this scene where the clock would chime, and she goes back to being the evil Cruella Deville that we all know and love. That's exactly what happens with Giselle with a Jekyll and Hyde, because, like I said, the whole clock thing, every time the clock would like strike 12 or whatever, she literally go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, being good natured Giselle and badass Giselle. And of course, Maya Rudolph, yeah, she becomes the evil queen. So she's kind of like mocking Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, Maya Rudolph's character, whereas Giselle is mocking Lady Tremaine from Cinderella, because Morgan becomes, you guess it, Cinderella, as well as the ugly stepsisters for Cinderella are actually with Maya Rudolph's character, which I thought was very, very clever, because they wear the exact same costumes as the stepsisters from Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which I thought was totally cool. So yeah, so of course Morgan has to try and undo the spell by asked by, of course, she goes into the well. Like Giselle in the first movie with Narissa pushing her down a well, Giselle pushes Morgan into a well because she's like, "Oh, you can save us." And Morgan, of course, ends up going to Giselle's old town, old neighborhood back in the cartoon world of Andalasia, where she meets Edward and Nancy. And Nancy, of course, sings the song about the power of love power, which I get to later on. And yeah, I mean, you see all these memories. It's kind of like an Inside Out reference. We see all these like memories. Like you get Giselle and Robert's wedding. You got one with Giselle's cartoon character. You get her with her statue of Robert. You get her in the end of the movie with Robert like lifting just Morgan up in his arms, and they're having an old laugh together. And there's one like where Giselle and Robert like push Morgan into the swing. You see like Morgan like this, which I thought was very cute. By the way, that was a really, really good scene in the movie. I thought it was brilliant. And of course, Morgan realizes that the only way to break Giselle's spell, is the memory tree that she created as a child that got destroyed with the fire. So of course she creates a new one in Andalasia, and so then she tries to give it to Giselle, because Giselle is now more powerful, more evil. And Morgan, of course, tries to give it to Giselle, and she looks at like this, like literally, she looks like this, and she's like, "Useless garbage," and rips it up. And then the whole play, like you see this gold aurora, and you see all these lions that are in the movie, like in the first movie, like there's one where she's like, what's that line called? She says, "Oh yeah, Morgan's a very nice girl. She's very kind and very sweet." And, "Oh, wait for me, Daddy," or, "Oh, I'm not going anywhere," and, "Oh, you lost your princess to me." And of course, then Giselle was like, the spell has gone off Giselle, and she's like, so looks at herself and says, "What's going on?" And then she's like, Robert. So yeah, she's now back to her normal self again. But again, there's another price as well as her being evil, because the power that she, of course, retained from the magic wishing wand is from Andalasia, and of course, the people from Andalasia are slowly dying, including her, by the way. So yeah, she's like slowly dying, Giselle, and of course, Maya Rudolph's character breaks the wand in half, kind of like in Anastasia, with Anastasia breaking the thing, the the stick belonged to what's his face, Rasputin. So I thought it was a clever reference as well to Anastasia. So of course Morgan's like, "Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, I'm not a true daughter of Andalasia." And Giselle's like, "Oh, you are a true daughter of Andalasia." And then she sings a song, and then of course she goes, "Well, and then Morgan's like, what I'll do, please don't leave me." And when she says, "Please don't leave me," I remember her father saying that in the original movie when she had the poison apple in the first movie. And then, of course, my root was like, "Oh, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock." She's, "Why is it not ticking? Why is the clock not ticking?" And then she realized that Robert and Tyson, by the way, I forgot to tell you that, to mention that, he is Maya Rudolph's character's son in the movie, who Morgan has a crush on, by the way. He's like the Prince Charming back in Giselle's fairy tale world that she created, like I said. And of course, like, oh yeah, and then of course Morgan decides, "Oh, hey, wait a minute." So she grabs this, this is the one, right? She grabs this and she goes, "I wish I was home with my mom." And then the whole thing, the next day, she wakes up in bed and she's like, "What's going on?" Goes down the stairs, by the way, and sees Giselle all happy with Sophia. And she's like, "Mom," she goes, "Morgan." And she's like, "Oh, I thought I lost you." She goes, "I lost me. You saved me." And I was like, okay. And then her husband comes along. He's like, "Oh, I had the strangest dream." Because I forgot to tell you. Oh boy, I forgot to tell you about Patrick Dempsey's character. So Patrick Dempsey's character in Giselle's spell is like a useless knight. Like, he tries to defeat a dragon, fails that. He tries to trip up ogre, which you only see like the torso and the foot. That's it. He fails that. We just save a little girl, by the way. And oh my god. So yeah, I'll get to the singing actually, and I'll get to all the songs in a few minutes. But oh god. I'll tell you that in a while. So anyway, everything's back to the way it was. Giselle, Maya Rudolph's character's like, "Oh hey, there's actually room in my committee if you want to join Giselle." And she's like, "I like that." And then they have a picnic together, Giselle and Robert kisses Giselle, and she's like, "Oh, what's that for?" And he's like, "Oh, I just love you, and I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change it for the world." And then she sings a song, and then it goes back to the cartoon world with Pip going like that. And then you see the firefly from Princess and the Frog, and says the end, and that's it. That's the story in a nutshell. Oh boy. So yeah. Now I'm going to go into the okay, well, I really think about this movie. Okay. So yeah, the first act in this movie is good. So yeah, the first act is literally, like I said back there, about Giselle and Morgan and Robert, and they're moving to the suburbs. And Giselle is kind of like, you might as well say she's having postnatal depression since having more what's her name, Sophia. And here's the kicker. Here's the thing, right? So throughout the entire film, Giselle never, ever, ever mentions that she was a fashion designer. Never. I mean, at least in the first movie, she like created dresses. She created dresses out of Robert's curtains, and Robert got mad at her. And then she made a dress out of Morgan's mat, and he was like cool with that. But in this movie, there's not even one word about Giselle and her fashion business. I think it closed down due to COVID. Who knows? And maybe she didn't get a lot to do, and that's why she, of course, didn't what you call it? Didn't become a fashion designer after, and decided to become a housewife with Sophia and become Sophia's nanny, I believe, while her husband is like the one that works. Speaking of Robert, you never ever see him in his office at all compared to the first one. I mean, in the first one, you see him at his office with Jodie Benson's character Sam, who we thought was going to make an appearance. She doesn't. And all you see is literally him on a train with the guy that played the genie from the Broadway show Aladdin, and your one, I know what her name is, Anne Hardy or something like that. She was in Avenue Q. Never heard of her in my life. And then that was it. You just see him go on a train, the train just goes, and that's it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Do we not get to see Robert's actual workplace now? What the hell? But I think the whole movie is basically about Giselle and Morgan's relationship this time compared to Giselle and Robert. Because in the first movie, it was all about Giselle and Robert and how they met and how like Giselle was able to come around Robert like to say, oh, true love does exist in the real world. And he's like, no, it doesn't. She's like, oh, yes, it does. And of course, he starts to believe in it more because he falls in love with Giselle and he loves her for being this beautiful, kind-hearted young woman who just stole his heart and stole his daughter's heart too. And that's why he loved her in the first place. And in this one, it's like more of a mother-daughter story than a romantic comedy because the director, Adam Shank, was like, oh, this isn't a romantic comedy. It's more or less like a family affair thing, I believe. But yeah. And what else is there? Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna go to the cons first. Okay, I'm gonna have to start with the cons and get them out of the way. Okay, so y'all know that James Marsden played a big part in the original Enchanted film. In this movie, however, he is barely even in it at all. I was like, what the hell? Where's James Marsden? I mean, seriously. The guy was hilarious and hysterical in the first movie. He cracked me up. Especially the part where he jumps off the bridge and starts singing, I've been dreaming of a true love's kiss, and gets hit with cyclists, which I thought was hilarious, by the way. In this movie, like I said, he's not even in it at all. He's only in it for like the beginning and then the end, and then you see his cartoon counterpart, and that's it. Nancy is like totally wasted, by the way. I mean, all she goes, it's like, hi, how are you? Hi. And I was just going, why is she so fake in this movie compared to the original movie? In the original movie, she's like, hi, girlfriend, let's right, kick it. And she literally hated Giselle's guts. And this movie, like BFFs, and I'm like, okay, you are in a happy mood. Do you know what? I think that her and Edward should have been the villains in the movie. It would have been totally, totally cool to see Edward become the evil, like reach his evil side, and Nancy for revenge over what they did to separate the two together. You get the gist. That's what I thought was going to happen, but no. But yeah, the villains. Oh god. Okay, Maya Rudolph was so campy in this movie. Don't get me wrong. I like Maya Rudolph. You know, I liked her in Bridesmaids, but here she was just so darn campy. I was like, oh sweet Jesus. Then there was a song called Badder, which is sung by Maya Rudolph and Amy Adams, and it was so Broadway-esque. I was like, oh my god, the song. It was a catchy song, by the way, but it was just, yeah. Speaking of the songs, there is not one song in this movie that I know off by heart. Not even one. I mean, yeah, the songs like Love, Power, and Perfect is a nice song, and even more Enchanted was a good song. But they just don't click with me like in the first movie, because in the first movie I knew every song. You know, That's How You Know, Ever After, So Close, True Love's Kiss, Happy Working Song, and you know them all off by heart. In this, it's like in one ear, out the other, and it just come every 5 to 10 minutes. I'm like, this going on, Jesus Christ, another song. Speaking of love interests, let's talk about Patrick Dempsey. Okay. You all know me. I love this guy. You know, I loved him in the first movie. I thought he was charming. He was chivalrous. He was just so dreamy in this movie. In this film, however, he is totally wasted because all he does is prance around, acting like James Marsden meets Chris Pine from Into the Woods, and is acting like a total idiot. Like trying to, like I said, defeat an ogre, defeat a dragon, and it just barely even succeeds. Like, and I'm like, what the fuck? And he's singing voice. Okay, so you all know they sings a little bit in Enchanted, right? The So Close scene. In this one, I could not stop laughing, you guys. I don't know what it is, but it just felt auto-tuned. Like, you know, the part goes, it's an honor day. I know, but quest one more chance to the below to the test. And I was like, oh my god, what the fuck did it do to his singing voice? Ah, I mean, at least in the original movie, he actually sung really, not really good in the original movie. And I know they said Patrick like that he's not a good singer and bear with him. And by Jesus, in this movie, he's singing. Oh Jesus! I'm not bashing the guy. You know, he's a good actor. He's very handsome. He's literally the next Hugh Jackman for me. There, I said it. He's the next Hugh Jackman for me. Who's another crush that I have a crush on, by the way. I don't know why. I just fancy him so much as well. But yeah, he in this movie was totally wasted. And then, did you anyone notice the hair continuity with Patrick? I mean, seriously, one minute he's got grey hair, it's curly like mine. The next minute it's black and it's shorter. Then you see the grey sides with the black hair. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, why couldn't they not just give him a wig or something? Besides the whole changing, oh Jesus Christ, it was just, oh, what else can I say? What else? Amy Adams. Yeah, this is a pro now. Amy Adams is really really good in this movie. You can tell by her that she really wanted to do this movie because she serves as a producer as well. Her first time, by the way. And you can really tell by her that she really wanted to do this film because let's face it, she's Giselle. There's no other actress on this planet Earth that can be Giselle but her. I mean, she was just fantastic in the first movie, and this movie she was really good as well, playing like the dual roles of the good natured Giselle, the evil Giselle, and here's me going, she is so a Gemini, being two faced. Um, but yeah, and the girl plays Morgan. You know, she's actually a good singer. I was surprised by her, and I thought she was actually good, despite the fact that she plays a whiny, moody bitch throughout the entire fucking thing. Until like the second and third act, she's like, "Oh, nice to Giselle again. They're all friends and they're all lovey dovey." And I'm just going, "Oh, for God's sake!" And also the baby. The baby is barely even in this movie at all. I think it's because of of her real parents what's the girl's name? Is it Mia Jackson? I think her name is Mila Jackson. Yeah, I think it's Mila Jackson. She's like plays the baby along with her twin sister. And I suppose like it was due to family commitments with her parents, and that's why she wasn't in for long, which I totally understand by the way. But yeah, and let's talk about animation. Okay, the animation in this movie is actually good, but yeah, I mean, what the hell does it do to Nancy's design? I mean, seriously, I know that she's older now, but you can tell that it was not done by James Baxter because this ton of animation is done by Toxic DNA or Tonic DNA. Tonic DNA, which is also the same animators that did the animation for Space Jam: A New Legacy, which came out, was it this year or last year? Came out last year actually. Space Jam: A New Legacy, which was terrible by the way. But yeah. Um, and also, okay, and this is the most wildest thing of all. So there's a cameo, right, by you guess it, Rachel Covey. And when I saw Rachel Covey in this movie, I was like, why the fuck did they not? Why the fuck did she not star in the movie? Like the whole thing, because yeah, I know that Rachel is like 24 now, and Gabriella is like what 19 at the time filming, but she's 21 this year and this month. But yeah, they should have had Rachel Covey because Rachel Covey did not look like a 20-something-year-old at all. Like along Rachel Covey, maybe it's because Rachel Covey doesn't sing. I don't know. But yeah, um, but yeah, I know. Yeah, that's probably my rant. But anyway, you're probably saying, "Do I hate this movie?" No, I don't hate this movie at all. I mean, there is a good movie in here somewhere. I think the reason why I actually loved this film, Disenchanted, love. I mean, I think the main reason was because you see all the old original gang back again. Because you can pretty much tell that both Amy, Patrick, James, and Adina were having a blast in this film. You can tell by their faces. Um, and I could see that too with them. Um, what else? But yeah, I mean, I think the main problem with this movie, the more I think about it, is the story because there is so much going on in the story. I mean, you've got the mother daughter aspect, Giselle being a total bitch due to the spell, Robert being a total idiot due to the spell, Morgan being a bitch, Maya being a Malvina Monroe being the queen bee of the town. I'm like, and then Giselle actually like becomes friends with her in the end. And I was like, that's the same fucking thing if she became friends with Narissa, because I literally thought they'd kill her off in the end. But no, they were like, no, it was all I got to do with the whole vivid dream thing that was going on. But anyway, um, but yeah, it is a good movie, you know. I mean, I gotta give props to the cinematography, which I thought was good, but some people thought it was very cheap looking. I didn't find it cheap at all. The CGI though was definitely bad. I mean, good God. I mean, yeah, I know the original movie, the dragon, was kind of as well, but it at least you actually saw the dragon's face, like Susan Sarandon's character, her dragon. At least you can actually see it. In this, we couldn't see any of the like I said before there a few times, the ogre's face or the dragon at all. Like it was just yeah, and the costumes are nice too, but there wouldn't be like wow, like you know, like in the original movie, like you had Giselle's blue dress that she wore with all the flowers in it that she created using Robert's curtains. There was another dress that she wore. It was the what was it all? It was like a pinky white kind of frill dress. It was very nice as well. And the ballroom dress, the purple dress that she wore during the So Close scene was just beautiful. I mean, oh my god. But yeah, I mean it's not a bad film. You know, it's no Son of the Mask, it's no Dumb and Dumber 2, but you know, I kind of wanted the movie to focus more on one thing, like one topic, besides jumping into one thing and this and that and the other. And I'm like, it's like as if the writers were like fighting, going, "Oh, let's have this movie as a mother-daughter relationship. Oh no, let's have this movie about Giselle being evil. Oh no, wait, let's have Giselle and Robert have a bit of separating time together." And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, there's just no purpose. And then they're just throwing some songs every couple minutes, going, let's just throw in a song while we just think in our heads what's going to happen next. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, overall, I still give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I was going to give it 3 out of 5. I literally was going to give it 3 out of 5 and 6 out of 10. But my heart is always saying, oh, give it 8 out of 10 or 4 out of 5 stars. So I'm literally going with my heart because I loved the original Enchanted film. It was brilliant. It was romantic. It was funny. It was sweet. It was just everything I always wanted in a Disney movie. But in this movie, I was kind of both disappointed and not disappointed. So it's kind of like a flip coin, like a scale, if you know what I mean. But yeah. What are your thoughts on Disenchanted? Really, do you like the movie? Do you not like the movie? What did you like about it? Is there anything you could change about it? For me, like I said, I would have preferred if the movie focused on Morgan Giselle, right? Which I thought was very, very good, by the way. I loved the execution of that. As well as Giselle being evil, and just forget Maya Rudolph being a baddie, like at all, like, and like they'd have it like you know, just basically have the story centering on Giselle and Morgan, and Giselle being evil, and Morgan trying to just bring back the old Giselle back again to her and her dad, and then they live happy ever after at the end. That's it. Besides, to having another villain going head to head, showing all this shit everywhere, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And all these songs are just in one ear and out the other, like I said. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up now talking, and yeah, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and till next time, take care. And for those who have seen this live stream review or haven't seen it, do give it a watch. And yeah, till next time, take care.